Welcome everyone, Christine here with a discussion about Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires, and with a discussion about the AI improvements, campaign improvements, that Creative Assembly has implemented in the public beta that they have made available. And hopefully, at the end of the beta period, there is going to be a patch that is going to add these changes in a live version. Because from what I've seen so far, there are some improvements. Not necessarily the kind of improvements we need, in the sense that, yes, there's still things that could be improved, but I am seeing some genuine improvements over here with regards to this particular campaign that I've been playing to test out these changes. Now, Archeon is a nothing campaign. It's a very, very easy campaign which you cannot resolve your way from the very beginning until the very end. For the most part. Maybe you have to fight a couple of battles manually. So in this case, I've gotten myself a bunch of vassals. So Arbol is a vassal. Frat is a vassal. Azazel was confederated, so on and so forth. Boris Ursus is a vassal. Katrin is a vassal. So here's what happened over here. In the very early game, Frat ended up in a war with Olaf Kislev, basically. So Prague, Katrin, Kastaltin. I basically had to bail him out of that situation because he was about to be wiped out by the combined Kislev forces. Weirdly enough, though, Azazel ended up doing nothing. So this is what I mean in the sense that there's still room for improvement. Because there was a lot of activity, more so than I would usually see in a campaign like this, but then you see Azazel just chilling out in the Tower of Crack for a long time. Or Malachi's AI, which is still very, very passive and unable to take territory effectively. This is one of the reasons Malachi does tend to get wiped out, because he does have very powerful armies, but he's not using them. But outside of that, a good amount of aggression from the AI when accounted. For instance, I declared war on the Demon Prince and Boris Ursus wiped them out in a couple of turns. And then when I declared war on Malus Darkblade, Boris decided, yeah, I'm not going to walk on land to attack Malus Darkblade, because this particular region was taken out by my Norscan vassal. And because of this region in Epidemius, the AI was unwilling to walk through those regions to reach Malus Darkblade, which, by the way, Boris certainly could have done it by this point. Instead, he just kind of chilled out for a bit, and I literally had to give him an attack command on Malus Darkblade main settlement for him to actually do something. So there's still weirdness with regards to the AI behavior, in particular about the AI not being willing to move through neutral territory in order to attack another faction. It's kind of understandable, I get it, but it's also creating situations that can be exploited by you or another AI faction, because now Malus Darkblade has taken the Forest of Decay, and he's about to pounce on Boris Ursus' territory right here. Still some weirdness with regards to that. Though I do have to say that when I did declare war on the Demon Prince, I just let Boris deal with that. And he was pretty effective, like constantly moving, constantly attacking. That's kind of the behavior you want to see from the AI. But I'm still seeing a lot of passive behavior from the AI. And this is just this small region of the campaign map that I've been playing the campaign in. Kislev, Frat, even Maneater have been far more active than I would have expected. Like, for instance, Maneater, well, while I was looking to wipe out Kastaltin, he just showed up and took Erengrad, which was pretty annoying because I was looking to subjugate Kastaltin, so it denied me that kind of opportunity, unfortunately. And I've also been in a war with Ungram over here for quite a while now. Like, I declared war on him while Azak was still alive, which was, 20 turns ago. Something like that. And Ungram has basically done nothing. Only now that I've subjugated Katrin is he actually moving armies towards me. So you still have that kind of weird behavior where the AI is not willing to move through territory that has any actual distance. Even though they could move their armies and actually help their quote-unquote natural allies, they still won't do so in many situations. Now, in other respects, however, Karl Franz did annihilate Festus, did confederate Midland, did take out the Black Pit Orcs, and now you see Karl Franz and Elspeth fighting a war against Vlad, pretty much over here. Though we're also seeing that there's plenty of AI armies that are just kind of sitting in these regions separate. And this is not an exception. I've seen this multiple times. Like, if I look at this campaign map, sure, there's some really good things, but you're also seeing quite a few passive armies over here, either clumped together, though this does seem to be the exception more with this patch than before. So this would happen a lot before this patch came out, like where the AI would just take a bunch of territory and then mass their armies in a single territory. It doesn't even matter that they're at war with another faction, because Gorst has been at war with Kuga for quite a while over here. I would be very surprised to hear the notion that they haven't been at war, because one, Gorst took that from Kugaf, I'd be pretty certain about that. And even if he took it from the Lizardmen, while those were still alive, Kugaf and Gorst do hate each other. So you're just seeing these two factions just playing a game of chicken with one another, neither of them unable to move. And this has been going on, I'm pretty certain, for quite a few turns. Now, I've been using Toggle Fog of War while playing this campaign, every handful of turns to take a look at that campaign map, but as far as I know, these front lines over here have not changed in quite a bit. On the flip side, you have Greases just taking out the Black Fortress because, well, of bloody course. The Skaven taking Carricade Peaks, or Clan Morse taking Carricade Peaks, Gorbad being put on the ropes, and Belagar surprisingly actually moving into the Badlands. This is really weird, because I can't really count the number of times that I've seen Belagar do absolutely everything except move towards Carricade Peaks in a campaign. Like, virtually every single campaign I've played in Immortal Empires, and there's a lot of them. I have 3.5 thousand hours into the game right now. The vast majority of times, here's what Belagar ends up doing. He either goes to war with Ikla, he goes to war with Sartusa, he may go to war with Scrag, or he goes to try and conquer Athel-Loren. For him to actually have a presence in the Badlands is really weird, and he did so by declaring war on Gorbad. Also, Scrag took Sartosa. I don't think I've ever seen that happen in all the campaigns I've played of Immortal Empires. Other things are more reasonable, like Rom being wiped out by Bretonia, though Durfu, of all people, taking Brion and Bordalo from Grom, I did not expect. Or Durfu launching a full-scale invasion against Kemmler, and Marienburg actually surviving against Kemmler. That is pretty exceptional. Like, vast majority of campaigns I've played in Immortal Empire, certainly the ones I've played ever since they buffed AI, I've pretty much always seen Marienburg get wiped out by Kemmler. Keep in mind, this is an experience based on Legendary Very Hard difficulty, so that's why I'm comparing this campaign on Legendary Very Hard versus the campaigns, all the campaigns I have played on Legendary Very Hard, which are pretty much all of them, in my Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires experience. Alifanor has been wiped out. Almost all of Wolf 1 is under High Elven control except a couple of territories. Lariel actually went and took the entire coast, or most of the west coast. Some things are more reasonable, but other things, yeah, you can spend an entire campaign over here in Lustria and never see Mazdamundi coming down south from the jungles over there. So actually, Mazdamundi having control of all of this ever since they added Yanbo, which has a change. I mean, it used to happen before Yanbo existed, but ever since Yanbo was added into the game, like, Yanbo takes these two territories, and then the territory kind of gets split between him and Mazdamundi. So, yeah, they're at war with each other. Other things more reasonable, more expected. Oxyatl doing jack shit. Yeah, like, Oxyatl should be far more aggressive and more capable of wiping out Sinchian factions, and apparently he's not. Or maybe Kairos Fate Weaver, or maybe he did take this territory and then got pushed back. Who knows? Like, based on the tier of the settlement, I would assume that Oxyatl did actually take it, took the Demon Gate, and then Kairos did push him back. Speaking about Kairos, he's actually taken out Teclis, and he's marching north on the Lizardmen faction over there. Warzag has annihilated Volkmar, and he's just about ready to go march against Archon the Black, who is apparently having a really, really bad day. Other things are more reasonable, more aligned with expectations. over here. In Cafe, Gelt just took out the territory of his initial faction, and actually Xiao Ming did take Senwu pretty quick on this campaign. Again, these kind of things could have happened before, but there's a lot of things that have to align in a campaign for all of these things to happen in the same campaign. Just gonna point out, like Kairos wiping out Teclis did happen beforehand, within this time period. Mazmunding taking that territory, fair enough, does happen. Reichland becoming so powerful. But all of these things in the same campaign, yeah, that is pretty damn rare. Or, for instance, Village actually taking the Imperial Road, and Zaytan just taking Pomei and then chilling out with multiple armies in different settlements over here. Like, seriously, he has a stack in almost every single settlement he holds. Literally. Like, he has a stack in the Granite Spikes, and one in the Valerie, one in the Fortress of Ice, one in Ironstorm. I mean, granted, this is not really a stack, but he's got so many armies. So there does seem to be a bit of a change with the defensive priority of the AI. So when the AI is not at war, and Zaytan hasn't been at war for quite a while with anyone, when the AI isn't at war, it does seem to spread its army apart better, as opposed to this kind of dynamic being the norm. It still can happen, obviously, but even Gorse does have his armies. Like, he does have at least one army here, another over here. Though, weirdly enough, this has been a forced march. Did he actually advance on Kugav? No, not by the looks of it. He didn't advance on Kugav. So, what do I know about that situation? Grombrindle has also done pretty decently well for himself. Like, he's not necessarily... he hasn't necessarily wiped out Malekith, but he does seem he's on the road to do so. Again, these kind of things could happen pre-patch. I've seen Grombrindle wipe out Malekith multiple times, but it is pretty rare, again, for it to happen, and for it to happen and other things that I've mentioned to happen, like Alifanar being wiped out by Salostra and Be'lakor, or the Empire becoming this powerful and all that, or Drycut taking Stirland. Yeah, that's pretty rare. Azag being wiped out by Ungrim, and then Ungrim doing fuck all for a long time, that's pretty normal. So my perspective, based on what I'm seeing here by turn 34, is the AI is somewhat better at launching a war, not just like a limited offensive, not just taking some territory, but going from one region to another, taking territory, and doing so in a sensical way. Like, it makes sense if you're playing a Scrag campaign, if you're going to take the Border Princes to wipe out Sartosa anyway, because, yeah, they're very easy to take out. And while Scrag did eventually get pushed back by Aranessa, he does still hold quite a bit of this territory. So there's been some back and forth over there. I think Scrag himself has actually been killed. Like, I do see the AI recruiting armies in fairly safe locations like provincial capitals, so that's why I imagine Oxial, for instance, has an entire stack over here, because he literally just recruited that. But I do think there's room for improvement. Now, some will argue that it's not necessarily important to talk about the campaign from this early point, but from my point of view, everything before turn 40, that is the meat of a campaign. Those are the most important turns of a campaign, regardless of who you're playing. I'm sure that if I continued playing this campaign, things would become even more interesting. Well, if I wasn't playing freaking Archeon, which is auto win from turn 1 anyway. But if I wasn't playing a Legendary Lord that was a bit less bullshit than that, sure, I think this campaign could be more interesting and long-term potential. Maybe. Possibly. Who knows, really? Like, certainly, if you're playing, say, a quick campaign and you suddenly start having Belagar showing up with full stacks against you, that does become a nightmare to tackle. And obviously, that's what Belagar is doing right here. I really can't think of a single campaign, if I'm being quite honest with you guys, where I saw Belagar actually do something like this. Right? Maybe once in 100 campaigns or something like that, but pretty freaking rare. And usually, even in those kind of circumstances, he is at war with other factions still. But over here, you can see that, yeah, Belagar, he kind of chilled. He took Karakazor, kind of chilled out. I'm not sure what else he may have done, He certainly didn't fight Aranessa because, yeah, the Italian capital is fairly high tier, so is Cave and Blight. So he hasn't fought these factions. He hasn't lost any territory by the looks of it. So I guess he just chilled out, and now he's like, well, I am just going to invade the entirety of the Badlands. I think it was because he saw Gorbad after Gorbad took the Western Badlands, and it's like, free real estate from the Greenskins. Also because Gorbad's kind of been getting his ass whooped by Queek. It's a free-for-all over here. I'm not sure if Tretch holds any territory over here. I don't think he does. So Tretch did not take out Karakazul. It's all been Queek. Though we do see some Tretch armies moving against Emmerich, and I think Emmerich is going to have a really, really bad day in this campaign. Like, he's been suffering quite a bit, undeniably so. So Tretch and Queek combining against you can be pretty damn scary. Forik, he's been fighting Scarbrand by the looks of it, and losing quite a bit of troops in the process. He hasn't been spending his entire campaign, however, fighting against Khalida. But yeah, this does seem to be a more interesting campaign situation than you might have seen before. Though, why is Noctilus still alive? That's a different discussion, because, for instance, it will take the High Elves quite a bit of time for them to even discover the Galleon Graveyard and to wipe out, so maybe something could be done with regards to that, and also movement via the sea, via neutral territory to attack a faction you're at war with. Because, it is ridiculous that I've been at war with Ungarum for 20 turns, and I couldn't give less of a shit about that. Even though, like, Ungarum's only had to deal with Azag over here. He hasn't been at war with Skarsnik right here. Hell, this campaign is probably the closest I've actually ever seen to a fight for Caracade Peaks between the three principal factions when it's pure AI. And even then, you don't have Skarsnik doing anything because, yeah, he's kind of getting wiped out by Thorgrim right here. Although there's been some back and forth, to be clear on this subject. Like, Thorgrim did strike a early blow, then Skarsnik rallied, struck back, and now Thorgrim is just, he's rallied himself, and he's about to land the finishing blow, I think, on Skarsnik. But you do see decent enough AI empires. I would not want to invade freaking Ulthuan at this point, I gotta tell you. Though that's pretty normal for Ulthuan to become so powerful, but there's always vulnerabilities you can take advantage of with regards to Ulthuan. One of the things I've said about Nakari beforehand, one of the things I've said about Ulthuan in multiple videos is it's about turn 30 that you can expect Nakari and Noctilus to be wiped out by the High Elves, which it's happening a bit slower than expected over here, but it's certainly happening, and yeah, you would not want to do it. And to be clear, I do think Alariel has had control of this territory for a decent amount by the looks of it, because otherwise you would not have this settlement at tier 3, especially if you assume that Noctilus took this territory in the first place. Sure, the AI cheats like hell when it comes to it, but yeah. She actually may have come in this territory herself because we see the power of nature effect. So it's not like Alariel just confederated Terranok. No, she visited these regions herself by the looks of it. And where is she at this point? I have no damn clue. She might have gotten wiped out because she might be at war with Morathi at this stage. Some back and forth happening over there. She's certainly not here against Nakari. Or maybe she was and got wiped out over there. Though I don't see her effect right here. So it's probably that she got wiped out somewhere around these parts by Morathi. Who does hold a decent amount of territory, though not necessarily as much as she could. So room for improvement, but I'm seeing things that I've never seen in a campaign, or very, very rarely seen in a campaign. Like, Katep marching all the way here, when in a lot of campaigns, Katep does tend to love sitting in his little corner of the map, maybe fighting with Gormbrindle or fighting with the Skaven or Sisters of Twilight, but no, that's not happening here in this campaign. So it does seem better. That would be my conclusion. How significantly better? I think I do need to play a lot more campaigns, but I do like what I'm seeing so far. Questine here, signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications.